Hey everyone, this is going to be the Math Spiral Review for September 2nd, which will be Wednesday, of course. We're going to be dealing with fractions, decimals, factors, multiples, and other basic operations. Actually, today we are going to focus on addition of really big numbers. All right, so let's move on here. Start with number one. All right, first thing I'm going to want you to do is to convert the following decimal into a fraction and a percentage. So you'll want to do a fraction first and then a percentage. We'll talk through why here in just a second, but I would like you to try this on your own. I'll pause the video here and you give it a shot. All right, so when changing a decimal into a fraction, it's actually pretty easy. If you remember, all we're going to do is we're going to say the number out loud. So of course, this is the tenths place. This is the ones place. There is no oneths place, so we jump to the tenths place and then the hundredths place. So we take that hundredths and we're going to put our number over 100. And our number is 65. And ladies and gentlemen, the fraction part is as simple as that. 65 over 100. Now, we're not going to do anything else with that fraction right now. We're just going to keep it like that. But in order to get to a percentage from a fraction, remember, percent, the cent means 100 and per means out of. So in order to get to a percentage from a fraction, all we have to do is make sure our fraction is over, our numerator is over 100 as our denominator, and that will make it the percent. So we have 65 out of 100. So our percentage is going to be easy breezy, 65%. There's nothing any more difficult than that. Remember, going from a decimal to a fraction is simple. You just read the decimal out loud and write it as a fraction. It will actually, if you read it correctly, you'll know what spot to put underneath. So there's either going to be a 10, a 100, a 1,000, whatever you've got going on in your last place, you just read that as a whole number. So 6,500's here, and then anything over 100 is automatically a percentage. You just use the number of the numerator. All right, let's move on. So question number 2, actually, hold on just a second. Let's get rid of all this craziness. Now we'll move on to the next one. All right, so here's our fraction we had, 65 100ths. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to try giving this fraction in lowest terms, which means I want you to simplify it. You're going to take the top and the bottom. You're going to try to think of your factors, find a number that works for both, and divide the top and bottom by the same thing. I'll give you a chance to try it here. I'll pause, and then we'll work it out together. All right, so hopefully you took a chance to try this guy. We just need to think through our factors of 65 and 100. Anytime we get a factor that we have in common, we can use that number to divide both by the same thing. Keep working down until we can't go any further. So anytime I see a 5 or a 0 between two numbers, first thing I can think of is these numbers are both divisible by 5. If I divide 65 by 5, well, I know that 5 times 12 is 60, so this would be 5 times 13. I also know that 5 times 20 is 100. So all I did was divide both of these numbers by 5. I get 13 20ths. Now, 13 is what we call a prime number. That means the only factors of 13 are 1 and itself. That means I can't simplify this any further, even though there are multiple factors of 20, because I can't divide them then by the same thing. This is going to be my simplest form of the fraction. Again, you're just going to think through your factors of each number. That's why factors and multiples are so important. You're going to think through your factors of each number. When you find one you have in common, go ahead and divide the top and the bottom by the same thing, and then repeat the process until you get a prime number on top or bottom, something that you can't, or you have two numbers that aren't divisible by the same thing anymore, and that will tell you you have your simplest form of the number. All right, let's move on. All right, next one should be pretty simple. We're going to give all the factors of 32. I want you to pause and think about all the numbers you can multiply together to get 32. Go ahead and give it a try. All right, so factors of 32. Well, the easiest ones would be 1, and on the other end of the spectrum, we have 32. I'd like to try to write mine out in numerical order from least to greatest. That's sometimes helpful when I'm using the factors to do something else. So I've got 1 and 32. I actually also happen to know, because this is an even number, I can use 2, and 2 times something is going to give me 32. It's actually 16. All right. Now, because this is an even number, I also like to try to do other even numbers to see if any of that works out. And actually, the next even number, 4, does work, because 4 times 8 is also 32. Now, I know I'm getting close to the last set of numbers that I can use, because my numbers in the middle are getting very close to each other, which means I'm probably not going to have a whole lot of other digits that I can multiply together. I might try my next even number, which would be 6, but I can't get to 32 multiplying 6 by anything. The closest I can get is 36. So I think that is going to be our set of factors: 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. Again, these are just all of the numbers that you can multiply together to get the number 32. Easy breezy. Let's move on to the next. Now let's deal with factors. So factors are kind of the opposite side of multiples. These are just multiples are the opposite side of factors. These are the numbers that you multiply your digit that you're finding the multiples of. You're going to multiply that by different things. Again, there are an infinite number of multiples, because you can multiply your first factor by anything and get different numbers going on into infinity. But I want you to try giving me the first 5 multiples of the number 7. That means you're going to multiply the first 5 integers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, by 7. Go ahead and give it a try. All right, so the first 5 multiples of 7, well, we have 7 times 1, which will give me, of course, 7. I have 7 times 2, which will give me 14. Moving on, 7 times 3, I know in my head, is 21. 7 times 4 is 28. And 7 times 5 is 35. And this is what we'll call the first 5 multiples, because it's 7 times 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So your first 5 multiples of 7 would be 7, 14, 21, 28, and 35. We'll keep working on those, but those are important to be able to do quickly in your head as we go through working with multiple, renaming decimals, fractions, and percentages. All right. Let's try something easy today. So moving on into next week, we are going to be starting to work on addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of decimals. We're going to really get into that at the end of this week and then on into next week. So let's start with just a review of addition, because that's the first thing we're going to start working with our decimals with. So go ahead, give this big old number a try, and we'll check your answer here in just a second. All right. So the only thing to remember when we're adding very large numbers up is we're going to make sure we keep our numbers lined up, straight up and down. Make sure the places are lined up correctly. So I have my 1s lined over my 1s, my 10s lined over my 10s, so on and so forth, up until I run out of digits over here. That's the only thing we have to remember, except for making sure that we carry digits over. When we get a 10 in our spot or more, we're going to take that digit and we're going to place it over the next one, because that would go into the next power of 10 column. So we'll start with 5 plus 2, which is 7. Easy breezy. 7 plus 1 is 8. 3 plus 4 is also 7. going to put my comma here because as my numbers are lined up, I don't have to do anything special with it. 9 plus 1 is 10. So I'm going to drop my 0 here. And this is actually in the thousand spot, but 10 thousands is actually 1 10,000. So I'm going to add that 1 over into my 10,000 spot. 1 plus 2 is 3. And my 500,000 lives alone over here. So your answer should have been 530,787. Again, the only important thing to remember as we're doing large numbers like this is to line them up with the place values in the right spots over each other. It's actually going to be the same thing we're going to have to do when we start working with decimals at the end of the week. All right. Well, I hope you guys did well with this today. Make sure that you click on the next part of the video to watch the lesson today, and we'll move on. Good luck.